Hi, everyone. My name is Hebron. I currently work at Adobe as a lead software engineer. Thanks for having me come here to speak with you guys on the topic of computer science. It has the word science in it, so it must be good. So just a little bit about me. I live in Castro Valley. I've been here for a while. Father of two CVHS Trojans, Caleb Mak, he is a junior. Laura knows him. And Joshua Mak, he's a freshman. And we go to church at this place called Chinese Independent Baptist Church in Oakland. So we believe in the Bible and we believe in God. I have been a coach at Science Olympiad for, I think, 2 to 3 events. I don't quite remember now. But one thing that I coached on was an event called Game On. It's a build a game using Scratch. We unfortunately lost pretty badly. But this is a lesson that if you don't have the heart for something, even though it sounds all cool, don't do it. I think there's a lot of people with Game On or with any of these events, they don't really actually want to be there, but their parents make them do it. And also this is with careers. I'm going to talk about the career that I chose, which is computer science, which I think is really, really fun and cool. But if, after going through this and you guys listen to it and say, that doesn't sound all that great, I don't think that's for me. Don't do it. Only do things that you have the heart to. I graduated from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. It is a great engineering school and also great in architecture. That's also where I met my wife. So a lot of fond memories there. And back then, school was a lot cheaper. So we stayed there for a really long time. I think I was there for 6 years. I've worked for several different companies. I think I counted five or six. They ranged from small, tiny startups that had 20 people to a big company that has 20,000 people. It also ranged from places that completely failed to other places that became more successful. So, software. Software is everywhere. When I first got started in this field, in high school, I was talking to some people. People asked me, well, what do you want to do for a living? I said, computer science, computer stuff, computer programmer, that sounds kind of fun. I want to do that. And they said, don't do it. I said, why? I said, computer programmers, they are a dime a dozen. It's just too many of them. There's not much to do. But I didn't listen. I did it anyways. And now software is literally everywhere. When we think about software, maybe the first things we think of are desktop apps like Word or Excel, to mobile apps like, everything on your phone, and web apps. You go to a website like Netflix or Amazon or whatever. Those are all web apps. And traditionally, those three places are where you think software is at. But then it's starting to branch out to many different places. Smart devices. I have smart switches all over my house. And you control them using software. And weird things now, like smart appliances. I went to Costco the other day and I saw a fridge that has a TV and a panel next to it, and I bet you can even watch ads, and even gas pumps. I've seen like little TVs on there, and using your smartphone, I think you can even control certain dishwashers or stovetops. So it's getting to be pretty crazy. And then you have your virtual assistants like your Amazon, the Echo. You have Siri to control all these things, whether it's your light switches or whatnot. And then you have your wearables, your Apple Watch. And the newest thing that's starting to come out are these virtual glasses, where I think if you're really addicted to the internet, then you'll go buy one of those. And then you walk around, you look around, and then it does like Google searches while you look around. You see a cup, you look at it, and then bloop, it does search, and you can see that on Amazon.com you can buy that cup for $7.95. So it's for people who are really crazy into all that stuff. And cars, I just have a pretty simple car, but it connects to my Wi-Fi, and I can control when to turn on the AC before I get into the car. Medical devices are one thing that's kind of pretty interesting, actually. Just pacemakers helps person stay alive. And they even have things now where, on TV, you see these little, if somebody kind of like died right away, you want to try to revive them, they have these electric paddles, right? And you shock them, and then, it helps their heart beat again. They now have ones where they can embed inside a person, and then it would detect whether the heart is having trouble. And basically, it will shock you to revive your heart. And that's all controlled by software. And in the middle of this thing is this term IoT. I don't know if you guys heard of this. It's called Internet of Things. Basically, the internet is what is connecting all these things together and allows you to be able to control all those things. So with all these different fields, the one field and probably the more common field that people usually work in are the web application side of things. I'll talk about a couple of the things that I've done in the web application side of things. So I don't know, does this look familiar to anyone? This is, if you go to the Castro Valley Public Library, you have used this to look for books. And I worked at a company that builds software for libraries. And Alameda County Library have actually moved to another application to do all their, to show their books. And it's actually kind of better. But this one is one that I was involved in. You type in word there, you search for books, you click on it, you see more information about the books. You see which branches they're in. And then I remember one of the last things that I did before I left was this thing with the call number. You can click. I bet you none of you have ever clicked on a call number. But if you did, the one that says like J636, some random numbers, you'll see this little shelf that comes up. And this is supposed to represent the physical shelf. Like if you went to the shelf, you'll see these books next to it. And then you can scroll left and right and look to see what books you would find if you went to that shelf. So this, of course, is just one of the many software web applications that you find, that you see all the time, right? You have all these: Facebook, YouTube, Netflix, blah, blah, blah. And they have become an integral part of our lives for entertainment, for communication, and for even research. Although I heard you guys are not allowed to use Wikipedia for your research, but Wikipedia is actually pretty good. This is what I did at my previous company. My current company, I'm doing something where you don't see quite as readily. So what I do now is in an area called Programmatic Advertisement. And it's whenever you see an ad on the internet, there's this complicated stuff that's going on in the back. So in this little picture, someone goes to a website, and there is a slot that an ad can show up in. And that ad slot, there might be a bunch of different companies that want to buy that ad slot. Maybe it's Nike's, they want to advertise their latest shoes. Maybe it's Burberry trying to advertise new purses. And within about 100 milliseconds, there are these robots, they're called bidders, participating in this auction. And the company that I work for has one of these robots, and then we basically look to see quickly how much we want to pay, how much we want to bid for this ad slot, and the highest bidder wins. And then once we win, then we get to show the ad. And all this is happening within 100 milliseconds, so it's not something you realize, but I'm sure many of you have seen an ad. They're everywhere. And I'm sure many of you have used an ad blocker, so you might not see as many ads. So one part of this system that I work on is kind of the idea of an ad following you around. So you have an internet user. They go visit a site, and in my early example, it was Nikes.com. And they're looking around on Nikes. They found some cool shoes. They even put it in a shopping cart. But before they got a chance to buy it, their mom called them and said, "Dinner time." So they left the site. And then since they left their site, they kind of forgot about things, and then they go and they visit other parts of the internet. And as they visit other parts of the internet, they start seeing Nike ads all over the place. Whether they're doing hanging out on Google to look for things, they see Nike ads on the side. Whether they're reading something on Reddit or whatever site, maybe they're catching some news, they see a Nike ad on the side. And then that reminds them, oh, there was a shoe that I want to buy. So they go back to Nikes.com, maybe they click on the ad, brings them back to Nikes.com, they go, oh, okay, let me go and buy those shoes. And then the person becomes happy because now they have a new pair of shoes. So this is what I do, is to follow you people around on the internet. But before you say, how dare you do that to me? You know, the internet is free, so it's powered by advertisement. And so you have to see an ad. But if you have to see an ad, what do you want to see? Do you want to see something you might be interested in, or something that's not relevant to you at all? So we provide the service that makes it relevant to you. Ta-da, you're welcome. So computer science, is it for you? Is this something that you might want to look into as a career for yourself? Maybe a few things to consider. Do you generally like to understand how things work? When I was young, as a kid, I like to take things apart. Maybe things not even related to computers. You know, I like to take apart an alarm clock and fiddle with it and see how things work. Do you think methodically, like, you know, step-by-step procedures, very step one, step two, step three kind of a person? Do you like math or other kinds of sciences? And if the answer to all three is kind of yes, then maybe this is a field for you. But one thing you can really do, and something I really love about CVHS now, is you can actually take computer programming courses at CVHS. Caleb is taking one, Intro to Python. Python is actually one of the languages, I think it probably right now is one of the top 3 languages where they have jobs in. And you can learn it right now at your school. So it's really crazy. And you have another class, I think it's AP Computer Science or something like that. It's AP Computer something, Computer Programming or Computer Science. And that's learning the language Java. And Java, that's what I do, day in and day out. And there are tons and tons of jobs in both of those fields. So if you think you're interested, best thing you do is just to try it out. We're going to try something. I don't know if this is going to work out, but we're going to try it. I'm going to teach you some Java, and then we're going to write some code together. So don't worry so much about the syntax. The syntax is like You know, like you look at this little thing, there's a semicolon, and you're thinking, oh, where should I put the semicolon? Don't worry about those things, just kind of get the general concept. So this is a type and a variable. I have this variable number of cats, and it is a number, it's an integer, and it's currently initialized to 0. And then this other concept, I want to show you 4 concepts really quick so that we can use these concepts to write some code really quick. So the next concept is lists. You have a list here called my numbers, and this list is going to hold integers. And then I'm going to add a couple numbers to this list, 17, 34. And then I'm going to print out, say my age is, and then from this list, I'm going to get the 0th element, which in this case is the number 17. So it's going to say my age is 17. So does that all make sense? Kind of. Again, don't worry about the specifics. Why are there these curly, well, not curly, angle brackets and whatever. Another concept is a conditional statement. Say if I have more than 5 cats, then it'll print out, you are crazy, because no one should have more than 5 cats. I'm sorry if you have more than 5 cats. Loops. This loop, this is called for loop. Most languages have something like this. And this loop is going to go through it 100 times, from 0 to all the way to 99. So this first part will say, start at what number? I'm going to start at 0. And then the last thing at the end is, what do I want to do with this number every time I go through it? Well, I want to add 1 to it. And then the middle thing is continue until when? We'll continue until the variable I is no longer less than 100. So this will go, this will print out you are number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 99. Okay? So now we're going to write a program together. This was actually an assignment that Caleb had in his Python class. I'll do it in Java. I know Java better. So this is a Fibonacci sequence. And the definition of Fibonacci sequence is that the numbers is always going to be the sum of the previous 2. But the given is 0 and 1. You start off with 0 and 1. So the third number is you add 0 and 1 together, which is 1. The fourth number is you add the previous 2, which is 1 and 1, and you get 2. Does that make sense? So we're going to write a program to compute the nth number of a Fibonacci sequence. So I'm going to stop sharing that, and then I'm going to start sharing my little programming console. Let's see. Where is it? I think it's here. All right. Can you guys see the thing called Fibonacci Calculator? All right. So this is this. Let me move my windows around a little bit. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. Don't worry about the specifics again, like why does it say public? Don't worry about it. It's just a boilerplate that everything starts off like this. And when I press run right now, it'll run it, and then it does absolutely nothing because there's nothing. You can see this bottom part too, right? Okay. So I'm going to create a function, a way of calling something, call calculate. And I want calculate to return a number. And I want to pass in a number. I want the nth, well, let's call n the index. I want the number at the indexed position. So this is the Fibonacci sequence. And in computer science, most languages, they always start counting at 0. So this is the 0th element. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do 7. So I want the 7th element to come out, and it should say 13. So I'm just going to, for now, I'm going to say, let's return 10,000. And then I'm
Sorry,
going to,
oh, sorry to interrupt you. I don't think we can see the code you're typing.
oh, you can't? Thank you for letting me know that. Let's see. I am going to stop sharing. Let's try again. I'm going to share. Oh, it might be because I moved to a different desktop. How about now? Can you see code?
Yeah.
Okay. Whew, boy. Let's see. Thanks for letting me know that. So this thing was empty. This thing looked like that. So I added this thing on top. And then this is in my calculate function. I'm going to return an integer. And right now, I'm just for fun, I'm going to return the number 10,000. And then I'm going to call it. So if I say calculate, and right now, I'm just going to put anything, 5 in here. And I want to print it out. So I'm going to do this thing of system, the print. And then I'll say arrows. I'm going to print out the contents of calculate. Okay, and then I'm going to press play, run. Okay, can you see this down here, the 10,000? Okay, whew, good. So it printed out 10,000 because I said print out 10,000. Now, let's figure out how to do this. Hope I don't mess up. I'll probably mess up. We want to create a list, and inside this list, we want to hold an integer, and I'll just call this thing my list, and boilerplate stuff. So in this list, I want to at least put the first 2 numbers into it, because that's how the Fibonacci sequence starts. It always starts with a 0 and a 1. And the 0 and the 1, it doesn't follow any rules, because the Fibonacci sequence really starts at the 3rd number, because you need the first 2 to add to it first. So I'm just going to put those 2 in there. And then I'm going to start my for loop. And then I don't want to start from the 0th element, because I've already got these 2 things figured out, the 0th and the 1st. Let's start at the 2nd element. So I'll put 2 here, and then I'll keep on counting, because I want to compute the index position element. So I'll say keep counting until I is less than or equal to index. And then I'm going to keep on counting 1 at a time like this. All right. So I said, let's create a new variable here. Current number. We said the current number, the definition of the current number is always the list, and you get the previous 2 numbers, right? So the current number in this loop right now is I. So I want I minus 1. And I want to also add the one before that. So that's going to be I minus 2. So let's see. And then now that I generated this new number, current number, I want to put it inside my list. Okay. So now I think with this loop, let's say we're going to try out, we said we're going to try out the number 5 in here. So it's going to go inside this code. It's going to create this list, put 0 and 1 in it. And then it's going to say, let's go in this for loop, starting from 2 all the way to 5, because that's what I passed in down here, 5. So on the 2, it's going to go in here. It's going to get the first element and the 0th element, which is these 2, and add it to the list. Then it increments. And now it increments to 3. So now I'm going to go into my list and get the 3 minus 1, which is the second element, and the first element. and then add that to my list. And I'll keep on doing that until I reached the indexed one, which is 5. Okay, so and then I'm going to at the end return my list, and I was looking for the index one. So if this works, 5, it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 5 is not interesting because 5 is 5. 6, 7. Let's go 7. 7, it should say 13. Okay. Moment of truth. Here we go. Run this. Whew, 13. Yay, we did it. So this is programming in 5 minutes. And this is this is just a very rough example, but the thought process of going through and to try to figure out well, first you need to kind of understand the syntax of things, and then after you know the syntax, then you have to just think through logically how to do something. I think I'm done, but just for fun, since we're a little bit early, let's make this thing one step better. I'm probably going to mess up, but we'll try it anyways. Oops. We're going to make, so when I was talking to Caleb about this problem, and I show him, maybe you can do it this way. He asked a good question. He said, well, what if someone put down here like 100 million? Then you're going to have this list that's going to have 100 million things. Then that's a really, really long list. And do we really, really, really need to keep 100 million things in here? The answer is no. You just need to keep the previous 2 things, right? So let's expand on this one step. See, we say, okay, I'm not going to use this list anymore because it's going to be too big. So I'll create an integer. I'll call it previous. Well, let's see. Yeah, I'll call it previous 1. And then I'll initialize it to maybe 1. And then I'll call previous 2, and I'll put 0. So this represents previous 1 is here, previous 2 is here. So I'm starting on this number again. Let's see. And then in this loop here, I still want to do math. I still want to say the current number is going to be the previous 1 plus the previous 2. And that will be the current number. And I also need to save things off because the previous 1 and previous 2 is constantly going to change. So maybe I'll save it beforehand. I'll say previous 2 is going to become previous 1. So let's see. Let's say I'm on this 3rd number. Then now I'm on a new loop. I want to save off the 3 to the previous 2. I want to save the current 1 off to the previous 1. So I'll try to do that. Previous 2, then previous 1. I'll get that to be the current number. Oh, I don't have a current number yet because it's down here. So what if I keep a current number? I'll initialize it. Let's just say 1 for now. Current number. And then I'm calculating a new current number. Okay. And then when I'm done, I'm going to return the current number. Okay. I'm going to change that. Okay. Let's see if this works. It probably won't. I'm never successful the first time. It should say 13. Oh, holy smokes. It kind of works. So if I say, instead of 7, I say 8, it should say 21. So I run it. Say 21. Yay! But there are going to be a couple places where it won't work. If I put 0, I'm going to run it. What happens? It says 1. So that's wrong. Because if it's 0, I can't do this adding thing. So I'm going to put a little condition here because you see, we started on the 3rd number. So let's just say if the index is less than 2. So if it's 0 or 1, I'm just going to return that same number, 0 or 1. And if it's 2, well, I already said it should equal to 1. So this should work. Let me see. It should say 0. Boom, yay. So we fixed it. And that is it. All right. Do you guys have any questions?
If you guys also have any questions, feel free to private message us as well if you want to stay anonymous. How do you memorize all that code?
Well, did you see as I start typing, it like start giving me hints? Here, I'm gonna share my screen again. Let's see, where is it? Here. So, like, previously I had this list defined. So if I start, see, I just typed the letter L, and it already told me that most people will probably want a list. So I just press enter. And then what should I put in it? Well, I can start little bracket, start typing I. Oh, well, integer starts with an I. Let's press enter. And then it's just whatever name. And then, so see, it gives me a lot of hints. New, and then I know a list is, I need an array list. I just type A, and it told me. And then in this list, what can I do with it? Well, I just put dot. Oh, I can get something, I can add something, I can get the size, I can check whether it's empty, I can clear it. So there's a lot of ways to cheat. But after a while, the syntax is not a big deal. It's you memorize. It's like learning a speaking language. After you figure out how to just say the basic words, then really the tough part is coming up with all this logic. And this logic, you can do it in any language. You just have to memorize some type of language, and then the rest of the stuff will just come. It's not as hard as it looks, but it has to be something that someone enjoys and thinks is interesting. So for me, I really enjoy it. I think it's like building a piece of art, and it's like it has to be beautiful. It has to work smoothly and well. So.
Cool. Yeah, we have another question. So what does your day-to-day work look like? And if it has been like changed by COVID, like how so?
That's a good question. Boy, I made this video before for my church that showed them what my day looks like, but I lost it. It's so sad. But you know, as a software person, we don't dress up or anything. You know, I wear this T-shirt here at home. I would wear the exact same thing at work. And then once I go into work, I go look for food. I'm hungry, so I, you know, find some cereal, get some milk, and you know, some people, they like to just sit and code. Yeah, I do that too, but a lot of the times it involves talking to other people and to figure out how to do things. So at my work, well, COVID's going to change this, but at my work, the newest thing now is, well, the old school way is cubicles. So we're all inside this box that's like 6 feet tall, and then you don't see the next person. You just go inside your box and you do things. But now the newer thing is get rid of the boxes. So all we have are desks, and you just see these rows of desks. And then I have people, next to me. I have people behind me, and it's a fun environment. We're all friends. So I'm coding stuff, and then I can overhear behind me my friends talking about receiving snacks from Taiwan, and they're offering it to people. So I was just, hey, you got snacks from Taiwan? Can I have some? So it's a fun environment. Um, and startups are especially silly because I think startups people tend to work even harder. And when you work too hard, your brain starts to fry. And so we have Nerf guns that helps us. So we would just I remember just working and then boom, I feel like somebody shot my neck with a Nerf dart. So we do silly things like that. But we usually gather in meetings, and sometimes we talk about, okay, we want to build this really cool thing. Any ideas? So we would go on a whiteboard, we would draw it out, and then say, okay, we got this plan. You build this part, you build this other part, and then we go build it. We might sit at each other's desks and say, hey, I don't quite understand how this part works. So we would talk it through. So it's very collaborative environment and a fun environment. And if you have the privilege of working for one of these really big companies like Google and Facebook, there's food everywhere all the time. They always make me jealous and salivate. They have 30 different chefs per building, and you get these ridiculous foods for free. So it will look something like that. Oh, and how's it changed with COVID? Well, we're all stuck at home. They already told us, don't come back in until the end of next July. So some places have already said, we'll permanently work from home. And only if you want to come in, then you come in. So things are gonna change. And who knows? Maybe we don't have a cure yet by next July. I hope we do. So yeah, things definitely have changed.
Oh, actually, going back to the problem set,
Hmm.
actually, me and Helena are taking APCS right now. So when you
Oh,
were like talking about like, oh, it kind of works, we were both like, oh, I definitely felt that. Like, yeah. And I was just thinking, like, do you have any advice for us, or like, since we're like or like programming, or just like a beginner, novice, like,
yeah, yeah. Um, well, that's really cool. Are you taking that class as a junior or senior?
junior?
Oh, okay. That's cool. And your friend too, junior?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's a really, really good place to really get your hands dirty. And I remember my very first programming class. I was a freshman in college, and I I I think a lot of people, a lot of Asians, they um, don't get a sense of freedom until they leave the house. So I got a lot of freedom after I left the house. And because of that, I stayed up, I didn't do school very well. And so in my programming classes, I remember I fell asleep. I would sit in the first row like this, and I would fall asleep. I would drool, and then I would end up with a paper of drool that I have to pour off. And so it was disgusting. And I actually overslept my finals. So um, I did really, really bad in my first programming course. So maybe one thing is this programming thing, it's new to you. So even if you don't do awesome, don't beat yourself up on it. But see if it's interesting or not. Some people hate it, and that's fine. Um, but some people will be like, that was really, really challenging, but it's kind of fun to build stuff. It's kind of fun to be able to figure out almost like a puzzle that you're able to come up with how to do this Fibonacci sequence thing. So with your programming class, the very basic part is just first learn what the language provides. You know, like what I was showing, you got your variables, you got your for loops, and then you have other things, your while loops. And after it's important to kind of know those fundamentals first. And after you know those fundamentals, then you can start building things. And then when you build things, you're no longer bounded by trying to remember what this next syntax is, but you're only bounded by your creativity. So yeah, go have fun in that class. Very, very, very cool that you guys signed up for something like that.
Cool. Yeah, we have another question. So I know, yeah, like when you work, you do like many, I guess like you said you did Java. Do you like work on many different languages or programming languages at once, or is it just like one continuous thing?
That's a very good question. Usually, a company would do mainly one language. Maybe they have other things that involves maybe a secondary language, but most of the time is one language. So Python, I learned a long, long time ago at like my second company, but I haven't used it since. Now I do Java. And so I think it's good. Well, languages, yes, there's like the syntax that you have to learn, but after the syntax, it's all the same kind of. Like I have, I showed you a list, and I show you this thing that says array list. If I was doing it in Python, it'll look a little bit different, but conceptually is identical. So languages is not a huge deal. There was a coworker of mine. She was doing Java, and then she got a new job at Twitter. And then at Twitter, they say, we do Scala. It's another language. And then she said, I don't know Scala. And he said, it's okay. No one really does. You'll learn it along the way. And then even when I interview some people for Adobe, they might not know the language that we're using, Java, very well. So I said, okay, forget about Java. Let's just do this in Python. We don't even use Python, but it doesn't matter. I ask them those things because it's all about how you figure things out in your head. So yeah, but usually one or two languages. You guys have good questions. You guys are thinking. Cool.
Does anyone have any other questions? Okay, cool. Oh, sorry, you can go ahead.
One more question about programming. Like,
Sure.
it's frustrating when you can't get it right. Like,
Right.
yeah. So do you have advice for that, to like not strangle one or like rip your hair out and like?
Oh boy. Boy, that part's hard because that's going to happen all the time, no matter where you're at. I don't know if this is just a me thing, but when I stop, when I'm really frustrated with something and I stop, but I think about it tomorrow, it just suddenly becomes clear. Does that happen to you, or is it just me?
I think that happens to me sometimes. Like sometimes I just get too invested that like I end up overthinking it entirely, and it's just like,
Yeah. Do you play a musical instrument?
yeah, I play piano.
Okay, so I play piano too. I don't know if this is also just me, but I'm practicing piano. I'm trying to get this one part right. I just can't. I'm just frustrated. So I stop. But tomorrow when I try it, it suddenly becomes easier. Does that happen to you?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay, there you go. So it's that's that one advice. Is to stop banging your head and to come back to it tomorrow. For whatever reason, it kind of works. Yeah. But maybe another thing is when your teacher presents to you a problem, try to break it down to the smaller components of it, and then try to solve baby steps first. So like this Fibonacci sequence thing. Maybe the first thing that I did was, well, why don't I just write a function that does absolutely nothing? It just returns a dummy number. Once I figured that part out, then I can move on to the next part. So baby steps. I think that's the way to tackle most things. Someone asked the question before, how do you eat an elephant? The answer is one bite at a time. Completely disgusting, but same concept.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Cool. Okay. Yeah. So just one more question, I guess, to close up. So for people who are interested in like computer science and like software engineering, what advice would you give to them?
Well, definitely what some of you guys are doing right now would just take those programming courses. You can't really know whether you like something until you try it out. And I am jealous that you guys have a way of trying it out. So that's definitely the way to go. And remember, if you get frustrated with it, it's all right. But take a step back and see whether you like it or not. It's fun. Oh, and unlike when I first started, where they said computer science is a dime a dozen, um, software is not going anywhere. It's going to get bigger, more advanced, and we have bigger problems to solve. The biggest thing people are into right now is what's called big data. There's a lot of data around. What do you do with it? So fields that stem from that, called machine learning or data scientists, that's what people want to do nowadays. So there's a lot of cool problems waiting to be solved. So if you guys are interested, yep, this is a fun field.
Cool. Thank you so much.